Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex here. Welcome back to another episode of the F1 Reject series. Thanks to you guys for the support on this series and for understanding this isn't a series having a go at drivers, basically just understanding their career, where it possibly didn't go so well in Formula 1 and where they are nowadays. So let's get into the first one in this episode. So the first one in this episode is a Scottish Formula 1 driver who was in Formula 1 for a couple of years for the Force India team. That is Paul di Resta. So Paul di Resta started a career in motorsports in the mid-90s in go-karts, but got into car racing in the early 2000s in 2002 with the British Formula Renault series. He had finished P3 in the 2004 Formula Renault UK season and going on to win Formula 3 and DTM before racing in F1 in 2011. After 3 pretty decent years in Formula 1 with Force India, Paul di Resta was left without a race seat in Formula 1 for 2014. Force India deciding to go with Sergio Perez and Nico Hülkenberg for that season. He went back to DTM and has had 10 podiums in the series since, including 2 wins in DTM. So that's not too bad over the last few years in DTM for him, especially in a car which was not so competitive in Mercedes in the last couple of years. He also subbed in for Felipe Massa in the 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix and actually showed pretty decent race pace considering he had absolutely no pace inside the car, no time inside the car before really the qualifying session and then the race session. I think he did not too bad before he was told to retire. As of recording this, he is currently P6 in the 2018 DTM Championship with Mercedes, but of course he's going to be looking for a drive by the end of the season because Mercedes will be pulling out of DTM at the end of this year, so it's a bit of a make or break season for di Resta in that aspect. So as an Adrian Sutil fan, as with di Resta being the sort of number one competitor, I was always a little bit against di Resta at that time at Force India because of course as an Adrian Sutil fan, I was like, I never want to be supporting a teammate in a way unless it was a teammate that I sort of really liked. But at the time, di Resta was sort of the rival in a way, and I think Sutil and di Resta were very even pretty much over the whole time at Force India. At the start, Sutil was definitely better. At the end, I'd say di Resta was a bit better. So I think it equalled itself out. They're both very decent drivers where they were good enough to go on to World Championships. As much as it harms me to say, probably weren't either quite good enough to go on to be World Championship winning drivers if they were in the right team. But still, 2 very decent drivers. They probably deserved more time, or definitely di Resta deserved more time because he only had 3 years. Sutil did have a pretty decent F1 career spanning, I think, quite a long time. Was it like 7 or 8 years? Quite a long time for Adrian Sutil in Formula 1, but Paul di Resta only got 3 years in Formula 1, and even though he was a bit of a rival at the time for me, because obviously as a Sutil fan, I do kind of feel he deserved a few more years in Formula 1, but at the same time, looking at where Force India went, I think Perez and Hülkenberg probably was a stronger lineup than Sutil and di Resta. So it is what it is, even though it hurts me to say that as a Sutil fan, but at the same time, understandably, they went in a different direction with Force India. But Paul di Resta is doing a really decent job in DTM nowadays. Mercedes are pretty strong this season, so there's a chance he'd go for the title. As of right now, the top 2 in DTM have got like a big points lead, so it's maybe a bit unlikely, but who knows? We'll see. But di Resta, he's come back from his F1 career, and he's definitely showed he's still got pace over in DTM in Germany. Next up is another DTM driver who raced in Formula 1 the same sort of time as di Resta in Formula 1, and that is Timo Glock, who raced for Toyota and Virgin/Marussia in his time in Formula 1. So Timo Glock had early success starting his career in both Formula ADAC and Formula BMW. He won both of those championships early on in his career. He went on to have decent results in 2002 and 2003 in German F3 and Euro F3 respectively. While racing in Porsches in 2004, he actually got a call-up for 4 F1 races with Jordan, which is kind of a bit random, but he did have some pretty decent results in the German and Euro F3 as we've just previously mentioned. But he got this call up to Formula 1 with Jordan in 2004. He actually got his best result of that season, which was P7 in his first ever career race, which I think was the Canadian Grand Prix, so a pretty impressive start. But at the end of that season, he decided not to continue that on. He tried making a name for himself over in America in the kart series, but it didn't quite take off in the way he would have probably expected, considering obviously having experience in Formula 1 and high categories like European F3. So he decided to come back to Europe and actually won the 2007 GP2 series, which was in his second year. And at the same time, he was signed up by BMW to be their test driver, and actually was in contention to replace Robert Kubica after his big crash in the Canadian Grand Prix in 2007, but they decided to go with Sebastian Vettel over Glock for that one. BMW did sign him up for the contract as a reserve driver, but Toyota signed him up as a race seat driver for 2008. After multiple podiums in the 2008 and 2009 season, Toyota left the sport and Glock had to find a drive for the 2010 season. From what I understand, he did have a couple of options in Formula 1, but he decided to go with Marussia. This was a slightly strange move at the time for their team that did have no experience in Formula 1, coming in as one of the brand new teams in 2010. And unfortunately for Timo Glock, he would go on to never score a Formula 1 point ever again after that occasion. After his time in Formula 1 ended in 2012, he went to DTM for 2013, and as of recording this video, he's had 5 wins over his time since then, and currently leads the 2018 series. Glock has definitely improved season after season in DTM. After his first season was a bit of a fluke because he got a win right at the end of the season, which really boosted up his results. But he's definitely been improving in terms of his general pace, year after year since he's got into the DTM series. And he's been very, very quick at the start of this 2018 series as well, considering BMW probably isn't quite as quick as Mercedes are over the first couple of races. So it's going to be interesting to see. And as of right now, I'd say Timo Glock is definitely a serious championship contender in DTM 2018. So I always feel a bit gutted for Timo Glock because he was such a talented race driver, and Toyota were really decent, weren't they, in parts of the 2009 season. If I remember correctly, it looked like they were going to have a good shot at the win in the 2009 Bahrain Grand Prix, but they completely messed that up. And obviously Brawn were pretty good at the start of that season. So he never got to actually win a race for Toyota. He only did get a couple of podiums along the way. But in my opinion, he was definitely good enough to probably still be in Formula 1 until maybe a couple of years ago. He was a very talented driver, and it was a shame that Marussia, Manor, Virgin, whatever they were called, they never really got good in a way, did they? They stayed around for quite a long time in Formula 1. They're the only one of the 2010 teams to stay around until obviously the end of the 2016 season. But it's a shame. It's a big shame for Timo Glock. There was so much unfulfilled talent there in Formula 1 because he unfortunately chose the wrong team at the wrong time there. But at the same time, he had a career. He got some podiums in Formula 1. He signed a really solid career for himself over in DTM. He's got some strong backers, I think, in DHL as well. So it looks like he's there to stay for the next couple of years at least. Especially, he could win this championship as well, which is looking like it's definitely a big possibility. Glock versus Paffett, it looks like it's going to be a really interesting battle in DTM 2018. So if you haven't watched it, guys, I definitely recommend. Go and watch the first couple of races. They're all up on YouTube. Their YouTube channel's fantastic over there at DTM, so just go and give it a watch. It's really, really fantastic racing. Especially, I think it's the second race at Hockenheim, one of the best motorsport races you'll ever see. So next up on our list is somebody that's been coined the lad in the F1 community. So you guys know what's going to be in this one. It's Will the Lad Stevens. So Will Stevens really did struggle at the start of his Formula career in junior racing. His first big break into sort of the bigger realms of motorsport was World Series by Renault in 2012 with the Carlin team. He hadn't really impressed in the years previous. He had got wins and individual podiums, but nothing to really secure himself a championship or anything like top 3 to really sort of prove how good he was. But he did get the jump up to the Carlin team in World Series, as we said, in 2010. He did score 1 podium that season. And in 2013, he definitely did make a big jump up. He finished P4 in a championship in 2013, showing some solid pace, getting multiple podiums. But actually in 2014, he went on to score 2 wins, but finished worse off in the championship, finishing P6 in that year. He also went on to race in the 2014 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for a cash-strapped, I think is the best way to say, Caterham team who were trying to sell off the seat as best as possible, and Will Stevens got that opportunity in Abu Dhabi 2014 to race for the Caterham team. The year after, Will Stevens raced for Manor in 2015. I think he pretty much replaced Max Chilton in that team, but the car was really bad in 2015. It was up there with one of the worst cars that the Manor team produced, and obviously they didn't have the strongest lineup with Manor with Stevens. Is it Stevens and Harrianto? No, it was Stevens and Merry, wasn't it, for the majority of that season? It wasn't particularly that great, that lineup. Just inexperienced, really, is the best way of saying that. And they obviously didn't get a seat, either of them, for the 2016 season. He'd gone to finish second place in his class at Le Mans in 2016 and actually win the LMGTE class in Le Mans in 2017. He finished P2 in the Blancpain Sprint Series Cup last year as well, and he's still currently racing for Audi in that series as well in 2018. He's also racing in the LMP2 class at ELMS right now, I think for Fabien Barthez Racing. I think he's had a couple of decent starts to the season, but they're not looking like they're going to probably be a championship contender this year. example, but it just never seemed like to work for Will Stevens in open wheel racing. But as soon as he's jumped into a GT car, as soon as he's jumped into like a European Le Mans Series car, it's all started to click for him, and he's really doing a good job. And said winning at Le Mans is obviously a pretty fantastic feat. So Will Stevens, it might not have quite worked out for him in single seaters, but he's definitely finding a career for himself over in the GT, Le Mans, and that style of things. So next up, you guys said I can't make another one of these videos without including him, but it's my favourite driver, Adrian Sutil. So this section might be quite biased, but I don't really mind that much. So Adrian Sutil had some pretty good success in his junior Formula. He won the Swiss Formula 4 Championship, he won the Japanese F3 Championship, and he actually only finished behind Lewis Hamilton in the European Formula 3 Championship. And they were both in their second season actually that year. So Hamilton and Sutil were very close that year, but Hamilton did get the edge and the majority of the wins. He got into Formula 1 with Spiker, and that was in the 2007 season after being the Midland Reserve in 2006. But obviously came before India in 2008. But Sutil did score actually a point for Spiker in 2007, which is part of the reason why I'm a fan, because he did incredible things in a terrible car. So as it came Force India in 2008, the team obviously steadily got better and better and better. I think in 2010 we finally saw how good Adrian Sutil was. He scored 47 points in 2010 when that car was actually somewhat decent for the majority of the season. Yes, it was decent for 2 races in 2009, which he obviously got his best or equaling best result in P4 in the Italian GP 2009. But I'd say definitely 2010 was probably his best season overall for the team, and obviously with Lutz, I think as a teammate as well, was a somewhat decent lineup. He had obviously gone to race in 2011 as well, with the rest of his teammate beating him, but he'd missed the 2012 season but would come back for 2013. He actually led the Australian Grand Prix that year and actually think got some pretty decent points finishes for the Force India team in 2013, but he did get beaten overall by Di Resta, I think by a little bit that season. He left for Sauber in 2014 after they had a pretty decent car in 2013. I guess he kind of thought there might be a chance of a decent car in 2014, but that wasn't the case. The car was terrible and he couldn't score points. I think pretty much nobody could score points in that Sauber in 2014. It was actually probably the worst car on the grid, and that was saying something because Manor were there. And Caterham, actually. Caterham were there at the same time. So to be slow like those two guys, I mean, possibly... Yeah, Caterham were probably a bit slower, weren't they? But let's be honest, they were pretty slow. They were pretty much as slow as Manor, which isn't good. But he went on to be the Williams reserve driver in 2015, but actually hasn't raced since. So his last race was back in 2014. But unfortunately for Sutil, obviously his career ended a bit of a sour note. I think there was a contract in place for him to race for Sauber in 2015, but that never went through. He'd probably be happy that he didn't race for Sauber in 2015. I mean, it was a somewhat decent car, but it was... it probably wasn't good enough to show over a season how good Sutil was as a driver, in my opinion. But there they are. He went on to, I think, be a test driver for the Koenigsegg car company. I think he also went on to do some testing for Porsche in their racing cars, their old classic cars. But from what I can tell right now, he lives a pretty peaceful life in the countryside with his girlfriend, and he doesn't really get involved in racing too much. But still, I want to meet him one day. That'd be awesome. I'd love to do a Behind the Visor series with him because, yeah, obviously he's been my F1 idol. And, yeah, I've supported other drivers, obviously, since he wasn't in the sport. Kvyat, I've liked him. So I don't really have a favourite driver this year right now. I guess I need to probably pick one. But, yeah, I haven't really supported someone as much as I ever have as Adrian Sutil from that time in, like, 2007 to 2013. So... yeah, who should I support? Leave it in the comment section down below. So that is pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching once again. Hopefully you did enjoy this. Hopefully you guys can leave some comments down below. Now, the series isn't exclusive to sort of modern day Formula 1 car drivers. You can obviously include people in the past. And I have actually got some notes down for future videos. And they include people like back in the day. Some people suggested like Michael Andretti, for example. And someone like Takuma Sato. They're a little bit... back in time. I mean, Sato not as much, but definitely Michael Andretti. So if you've got any people that are definitely way out of this era, let me know in the comment section down below. So that's pretty much it. Please remember to leave a like on the video, that'd be massively appreciated, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if you're enjoying these videos a lot, I would appreciate maybe a possible little donation down in the description down below. Completely understand if not, but they do definitely help me out, so that link is in the description down below as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys around soon for another video. Goodbye.